Number 7 we did in class. All 3 classes today we did this together. So that's what the picture looks like. If it's a scale factor of 4, then this has to be 4 times bigger than this. That's why it's 8. And if this is 8 and that's 2, then that has to be 6 by subtraction. If this is 1 and this is 4, because it's quadrupled, then by subtraction that has to be 3. And you multiply this by 4 to get that. So that's all the numbers. So then you just fill them in over on the left as needed. Question A says, how long is A prime B prime? A prime B prime is 9.6. O A prime. So from O to A prime is 8. B to B prime. Now be careful here. It's just from B to B prime, which is only 3. Just from B to B prime is that chunk of 3 centimeters. Going down the other column now, O B prime. O all the way to B prime is 4. From A to A prime is this chunk here of 6. And the ratio of OA to AA prime. OA is 2. A to A prime is 6. So it's 2 to 6, which reduces to 1 to 3. Number 9. Here we're doing really what we started the unit doing. I think most people would say this is what's easiest to them. You draw your lines of dilation like I already have in there. And this one wants me to double triangle ABC. So if I went up 2, I now am going to go up 4. If I went over 1 up, up 1 over 2, I got to do it again, up 1 over 2. So I end up there. That is B prime. Down 1 over 2, do it again, down 1 over 2. I did everything twice because it told me the scale factor was 2. Connect your triangle with a straight edge. You cannot get credit without using a straight edge. If you have obviously not used one, the Regents will not give you credit. It says it in the instructions, the midterm will say it in the instructions. You can always fold paper or ask for a straight edge, but you have to use one. And also label the points. It's a habit you need to get into if you're not already into it, because the Regents will say and the midterm will say graph and label, and you will lose points for that, which will be out of our control. Next one, same thing, except the point happens to be in the middle. You're doubling again. So if I went that way to get to A, I go twice as far. If I went straight over to B, I'm going twice as far. Straight down to C, go twice as far. This one kind of just expands from the middle because the center was in the middle. Graphed and labeled. Number 10, the lines of dilation from O to C and O to A are really close. So it almost looks like I made a mistake there, but C and A are not exactly on the same line. So if you're really, really neat, you can tell that they, from O to C goes up 3 over 5, and from O to A goes up 5 over 7. Those aren't multiples of each other. They're off by 1 box, which is why there's a little bit of space between those lines there. But anyway, we're asked to dilate it by a half. So we're just going to go half of whatever it was. So instead of up 3 over 4, that's going to be up 1.5 over 2. So there's C prime. I'm going to do B now. B is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, up 4. Half of that is 4 and 2, which is right there. So there is your B prime. And A, we said, as we looked at it before, it's up 5 over 7. Half of 5 and 7 are both going to be in the middle of a box. Half of 5 is up 2.5, and half of 7 is 3.5. So it ends up right there, and that is A prime. So it gets tangled up right in the middle there, and that is the dilated triangle by 1/2. And the last problem, number 11, like we said, it doesn't fit on your paper because when it printed and scanned, it enlarged it just a little bit, so you have an issue down there. But you draw your lines of dilation to start when you dilate with the compass, which is just with your straight edge. Lines of dilation with your straight edge. And then in this particular case, you're just dilating by a whole number 3. The only time that you would ever do the fish is if you have a half of something. 2.5, 3.5, just a half, or if you had a quarter and had to do it twice. But whole numbers, you're never going to use the fish, you're just going to copy. So from O to B, you set your compass and make that mark. You have to show me that mark that you measured it. So that's 1, that's 2, that's 3. And you would do that with your compass, and that's B prime. A, you measure from here to here with your compass, make this mark right here, this arc. 2 would be here, 3 would be probably just off your paper, whoops, down there a little bit. I think I might have a little more room than you, so we'll call that A prime. And when you connect those to something to remember, right, that A, B is parallel to A prime, B prime. In this case, 3 ABs equal 1 of the bigger A prime, B primes. And one little one is 1/3 of the prime image A prime, B prime. So all those things are 3 separate true statements that you might want to know. But that's how you do the construction if you tripled it. Remember, if you ever did have to do a half, let's just say, for instance, it was D from point O of a half. If that were the case, you would go between A and B and do a fish, and that would be your half mark. You do another fish between O and B, and that would be your half mark, and then that would be your half segment. But you only use the fish if you're the bisector construction if you're going to use a half. So pause this, go back to it anytime, try it a second time on your own. Remember, if you do this one time between now and the test, you'll remember it more. If you do it the day before, you probably won't remember as much. But let's get a super awesome grade on this so it buffers the midterm.